Welcome back, Leveling Up Nation. Oh my goodness, a 2 podcast day. Can you believe it? So awesome. Now, today we have Carey Conley on. She is absolutely a phenomenal person that will help you figure out what you can do to have a little bit more mental vitality. Now, I use these words very intentionally because every single one of us need that vitality, that life force recharged. And when you have the right skill set, mindset, and tool set to do it, for yourself, you can do things for you, by you, to be able to get to that next level. Your mental fortitude will go up. Your ability to lead will go up. Your ability to do the work will increase. I'm so excited to have her on today. We actually met at the Colorado Totality event just about a month ago. So I'm so grateful to be able to go deeper with her today and to hear her experience. She's got 3 decades of experience coaching and helping entrepreneurs level up their mindset, skill set, and tool set. And specifically for those that are struggling with some mental challenges, we are going to go deep today and help you understand how you can get the very best mental vitality possible and hopefully take you one step closer to being the very best version of yourself. Welcome, Carey. How are you doing today?
So great. I'm already energized.
Good.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things we want to start off with so that people can get an idea of what this is what is mental vitality? I want you to define it, and then I have a few ideas as well. But let's first define this term, and then we're going to get into some some different ways that you can not just process this, but get some really dialed in tools that you use all the time with your different clients.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me. And mental vitality, I think, means being able to be energized all the time about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because, without that, we tend to drift and our dreams die. And so what I work on is helping people craft a very powerful written vision for their life on paper so that they can bring that to life. I was taught how to do that when I was in my late 20s, which was a really long time ago. So I've been teaching this. When you said 3 decades, I thought, yep, I'm that old.
Yep. It's a nice way to say it, right? I was like, you have a wealth of experience. That's what that means.
That is exactly right.
When you speak, there's weight behind it, and we need to wait and listen to what you say. So wonderful. Now, I've got a definition here that I think is unique, and it will add a different flavor to what mental vitality is. I think this is really helpful for us to really kick off this conversation. Thank you for your first one. So mental vitality is the strength to carry your load without compromising your mind, your mission, or your heart. So what's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting that you brought this up because right now I am in the midst of creating another book. I have 2 books out already, but I'm writing a book now that's an anthology book. It's a collaboration with 20 other authors who are writing a story of whatever adversity they've been through for them and what anchored them through that storm.
Perfect.
So, and the reason I say that is because when I speak and I talk about all the things that having a written vision in your life helps fix, one of the things I talk about is how it becomes the anchor in all the storms, how you carry your load. Because after losing, my story, I think I've shared with you that I've lost both my husband and my 25-year-old son to suicide over the past 11 years now. So many people have asked me, how did you get through that and keep going? And it's because I know what my anchor and my vision is. That's how I know you can stay, carry through the load, like your definition is implying here.
Beautiful. When you think about the adversity that you go to and that we all go through, you don't have to have adversity to be able to have mental acuity and mental vitality. Right. But when you have gone through different things like that, like for you, you can literally be there and say, I can empathize with you. If you have someone that has passed away through suicide, I had my brother pass away as well. I remember just how shocking it was, the just mix of emotions, because my first emotion was shock. And then it was just like, I was really frustrated because I'm like, why did he do that? And I blame, and then you go through all of these different things. And then I was like, it wasn't his fault, it was my fault. And then all of these different things, it's a wave of emotions. And when you've gone through some of those pits of emotion, those valleys, then you can empathize. But not everyone has to have, drank themselves into prison or, fathered 50 children to know, oh, wow, I really need to dial things in. You've got a wealth of experience. You've seen people on all different walks of life. What have you been able to do as far as helping people develop their mental vitality, their ability to process those challenging moments and become even better and thriving at the end of it.
Yeah. You know, what I do with people when I work with them, bring them in, is I get them to write out a vision for me that's exactly about 3 years out,
Mm.
because I want them to start creating a vision for their life, no matter what their circumstances are right now. That gives them inspiration, gives them hope, gives them something they can now shoot for and now put some action into place to get there.
Mm.
So what I do, and I do this with entrepreneurs, I'm now starting to do this with young adults, which is my passion. I do this with people who are just kind of stuck in life and just need to see some beautiful light at the end of the tunnel of where they're at. Whether it's a major adversity or maybe they're just not feeling inspired with their job anymore. You know, it could be anything really. But I need them to create for me a picture of what that beautiful, perfect life for them would look like in every area of their life.
Yes. Understanding what that picture looks like, that's just the first layer of it, though. One of the things I find interesting is sometimes people are not the most articulate when it comes to what they want to be and
Right.
what they want to do as far as their personal development, but they're pretty articulate about what they want to have. Like, oh, I want this
Yeah.
type of thing. I want this type of thing. What is your take on helping people become the person that oopses the great things or has those things after they've become that person? Let's talk to that point.
You know, I'm glad you're asking this, because when I sat down to write my first vision on paper when I was 28 years old, I wrote a lot more about who I wanted to be and not so much what we have.
Yeah.
We were pretty newly married, and so I wrote a lot about my relationship with my husband. We were going to start having children, so I wrote a lot about the mom I wanted to be and the values that I wanted to instill in my kids, the relationships that I wanted to have with them. I knew at that moment that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what path to take yet. So I wrote a lot of things around the environment that I wanted to be in. I wanted to be around other leaders that developed me into a better leader. I wanted to be learning all the time from them and vice versa, right? So a lot of what I wrote was a lot about who I was becoming and who I wanted to be, and not so much about this kind of house or trips, which I wrote those things too, but more about the becoming than the stuff.
I think this is such a key distinction, because you look at Instagram or you look at all these different social media outlets. A lot of times they're like, here's what I have, all these amazing things, but they don't always talk about what the work is to be that person that does those things.
Right.
And you have to do the work consistently. And sometimes I think of the shoes that people walk to be able to get to where they want to go. You have to have a transformative experience to be able to become the person that has those things.
Right.
One of the things that I think is important when we're talking about mental vitality is it is recharging. It is something that you have to think, how do I be the very best I can today and tomorrow and the day after and the next week and the next month and the next year? It's not a one size fix all type of problem.
Right.
And it's not something that happens overnight. So, Carey, how long did it take you to become an overnight success? Is that 1 decade, 2?
You know, that's always a work in progress, because if you're always growing and leveling up, you never arrive.
Perfect.
You just hit those milestones. And then you go, okay, so this was great. Now I want to get better. What's next? So the moment you say you're done, you've arrived, is the moment I think you start dying, right? So I laugh at that, because right now I'm making very huge leaps, and I'm at a place in my life, Brigham, I'm 63, that I could easily say, you know what, I'm good. But I'd be bored, to be honest with you, if I just kind of coasted where I was at right now. And I know that because of what I've been through, I have so much more that I'm to give. And I feel very called to that. Like I said, especially to the young adults I want to start working with right now.
I think this is something that's key. One of the discussions we had earlier was when you're on your podcast, you'd like to do hot seat coaching, especially with the youth, and help them see a little farther than they can in their current situations. Because I remember when I was a kid, I could think of like maybe 3 or 4 months in advance, but it was so hard to picture myself 10 or 15 years in the future. What have you done to be able to open eyes and be able to help these youth be able to see you can become who you want to be? It's not a matter of potential, but this is a matter of you do the work, you will become that person eventually.
Right. So when I define young adults, I'm going to give you like an age range of, let's say, early 20s to early 30s.
Perfect.
All right. So these are pretty much, they are out of school or about to get out of school or starting their careers, their adult life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, because school still does not teach them, have not thought about 3 to 5 years out.
Yeah.
They thought about getting through school, getting the good job, and that would be it. And when they figure out that that's not really it, so many of them get out of school and get the job and are not happy. Yeah. And I am the one that gets them to think for me, define to me 3 years from now how old you will be. Number one, I always ask people, how old will you be in 3 years? Oof. How old will your family members be in 3 years? Because that gives them a time frame of, okay, so like if they're 27 years old, they're starting to see, wow, I'm going to be 30 and just got married. We're probably starting to have a family. Now we can start visualizing what that picture looks like and then go to work at creating that by reverse engineering it. Mm. So they say to me, if we have a family by then, I really know that we want to live in this neighborhood because of the schools. I really know that we want to be taking a couple of trips as a family every year. You see what I'm saying? They start painting a picture so that when they start writing goals that are 1-year goals, 6 months or 90 days, they can start placing action plans in place to get there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're putting it in terms that they can actually grasp. Right. That's what I'm hearing. When you're creating this vision with them, not for them,
right,
you're helping them say, let's take some of these blinders off and not just focus on the immediate future. Let's figure out, what are you going to be if you're there 20 years old? What are you going to be when you're 23? What is that going to look like? And you ask the right questions and you help them process by asking the right questions. I think that's beautiful. One of the ways that I remember looking at my life was through this little video about Skittles. Have you seen that one where they take the average life of a human being and they dump out a wheelbarrow full of Skittles? Mm-hmm. And you see, probably 50,000+ Skittles, and every single one of those represents a day. And you're like, wow. And then they start separating it and doing color. And you think about how, if we aren't intentional with our time,
right,
those Skittles, they just go away.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know how long we actually have. This is crazy, but literally last week, someone that I've known for almost a year now, he's been coming to Toastmasters, a really good friend of mine. He passed away suddenly. 67 years old, no warning, just didn't wake up. And it makes you pause. Like sometimes we think, I'm going to live my life and be my very best eventually. And we get on called the hedonic treadmill. It's that treadmill of life saying, you know what, eventually I'm going to be happy when I get X, Y, or Z. Or I'm going to be happy if I have this car. I'm going to be happy if I do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Why not choose to be happy now? In the midst of the journey and the process? This is that mental vitality we're talking about. You recharge in the moment. We can be the very best version of ourselves now. And we do the things and we know what to do. And as we live that decision makes our future inevitable. So Carey, what in your experience has been one of the most rewarding things helping someone else see their vision, even if it's the first time they've seen that vision? What does that feel like?
I've been doing this for a really long time, and I do major events called Vision is Victory events. Mm-hmm. And when I bring people, so I've been doing this now about 10 years officially. And I have an exercise that I walk people through that is super simple, like a 5-year-old can do it because they remember it. And I use an ice cream cone as a visual of them writing out their 3-year dream and then breaking it down into goals. And when I go to an event or I walk into a networking room, let's say that somebody went to my very first one in 2014, I think it was, and for them to show me pictures of their ice cream cone with their vision on it and telling me all of this is happening. It is amazing because I may not have talked to them for years, Brigham, right? Wow. But to know that they've kept that and that it actually helped them is just a really good reminder. I think it's just God telling you every day, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, because it's tough some days. You really question, am I really doing the right thing? But when you have people, just show up and say, I want you to know that you've really helped me. It's amazing.
So let me visualize this. You have like an ice cream cone and you physically have them draw it out, and then you're basically helping them see what toppings they want on it. You want to help. Is that right?
This is how this started. Is when I first started coaching people, we didn't have Zoom. This was all conference calls. And I had my very best friend as one of my first clients on the call. She was desperately wanting to change her life and get out of her job. So I had her draw on a piece of paper. I said, Dawn, I want you to draw what looks like a funnel, circle at the top and a cone underneath. And she said to me, well, mine looks like an ice cream cone. And I said, way better because everybody likes ice cream.
Yes.
So the scoop part on the top, Brigham, is where they write in their 3-year dreams, all the things they imagine they want to create. Then as we look at the cone part, I get them to draw 3 lines through the cone. One line about a third the way down, another line midway, and then another line midway from the bottom. So that first line down are 1-year goals.
Okay.
The midline is 6 months from now. Then that line up from the tip on the bottom is 90 days.
Okay, I'm going to see if I conceptualize this right.
Yep.
Right here, this is your 3-year, and then this is 1 year?
Yep.
And then 6 months?
Yes.
And 3 months.
Correct. Okay. So all the way down, Brigham, if you follow this through, you know what the tip of that ice cream cone is, your daily actions every day. You know what to do every single day, every week, every month to start moving up to this 90 days, 6 months. The 90-day goals are the most important because most people can get hyper focused in on 90-day activities, right?
Yeah.
But that's how we break it down. And again, I do that even though, I could make it much more advanced AI generated, complicated technological thing. I still do the ice cream cone because everybody remembers it.
Yeah.
And they can teach it to their kids.
That's simple. One of the most important things we can do as coaches is take complex ideas, simplify it so they can not only understand it, but they can use it, process it, and make that something that they can share with other people. Like if you have a tool that nobody knows how to use, it sits in the garage and nothing happens. But if you're like, oh, this is an ice cream cone. I know if I bite the end of that ice cream cone, the chocolatey part, right, it's sucking the ice cream cone out. You're going to eventually have that come through.
That's right.
That's so good.
It's fun. I remember my first event at the very end of the day, my team gave out those little mini ice cream cones to everybody.
Yes. Okay.
It was so fun. I have a video of that somewhere. I'll have to do that again.
That's so good. In the blog of this, I'm definitely going to have a picture of the ice cream cone. It's going to be perfect.
There you go.
Now, what if, of all the tools that you use, you said the ice cream cone is one you use. What is one that you wish you had known about earlier? One that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so useful now. I'm so grateful that I have this understanding. What is that tool that you use in your coaching now that you're like, if I had this when I was brand new, would have changed the ball game?
Well, coaching for sure. I think so many people overlook getting a really good mentor and coach because of the investment they have to make.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs try to do all the things on their own because they feel like they can't afford the help. And it's really backwards thinking because it's like going to school. You can't learn if you don't invest in yourself from the experts. So I guess the biggest encouragement I would give people is to really, if you need help, get the help. Sooner than later.
So tell me, what do you do to be able to identify the right coach? Because there are some coaches that I've had that I'm like, I resonate with you. I listen to what you say. I do it. I get results. Other coaches where I've listened to it and I was like, nothing's happening. Is it me? And I go back to what they said. I do it. And I was like, I don't think this is a law that we're talking about. This is a principle. And sometimes the principle works. Sometimes it doesn't. Right. There's a difference between patterns that are laws. And there's a difference between, here's a principle that works every once in a while.
Right.
So how have you been able to source your coach and say, this is someone that's worth their weight?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is trust your gut.
Yeah.
Because I can be in a networking room and there's 10 business coaches in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we all have different approaches, different personalities, different experiences in our life. And so somebody might gravitate towards me because of, let's say, my background versus somebody next to me that has 30 years of more degrees or whatever. So I would trust your gut. Number 2, do they have clients that can give testimonies of, yep, this is exactly what they helped me with? And the third thing is I really, really understand your pain points. And sometimes, Brigham, so I do these vision to strategy calls with people. And when I do them after they write their 3-year vision for me, I'm able to help them break it down and strategize it. I'm able to actually look and read between the lines of some of the things that they aren't able to see. That's a good coach. Yes. And a good coach is somebody who's willing to call you out on it.
Yep. It'd be like, oh,
yeah,
is what you're doing right now helping serve your vision? You're like, right. No. And that's one of the things we talk about, a scotoma. This is a mental blind spot. Mm-hmm. If you have mental blind spots, you literally cannot see them because you're blind to them. This is why you need a coach. It's not like a nice to have thing. It's right. necessary, because the only way you remove a blind spot is by having someone raise your awareness to the blind spot. Right. They raise your awareness to say, you know what, this is a problem that is being created because of right. this issue. And that's one of the things that someone with 3 decades of experience can prove. Yeah. So in the beginning, though, you don't have the experience, you have tools, you don't have the people yet. How do you help someone be able to believe in you? Because sometimes you'll have coaches that they're extremely brilliant. They have a lot of tools. They even have a lot of results themselves, but they're brand new. So how do you help someone that's brand new get the ball rolling and start helping people, start serving?
Define people, like a possible client or another.
Yeah, coach? Let's say a possible client. Let's say you are coaching someone that's brand new as a coach.
Okay.
And they want to do what you do. They want to model what you're doing. Talk about that.
I use a lot of my own stories when I talk to people.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I mean, literally within 5 minutes of me being up on a stage and speaking, I will share a story with the audience that I know is a big pain point of theirs, and bring out my own past experiences of, I'm going to use the word failure, but there's no such thing, right? Mm-hmm. Of how I tried something and it didn't work, or how I struggle with these sorts of things every day. So they need to know that I'm human, and that I actually don't just say, I understand how you feel. They get that I understand how they feel because of the stories that I share with them of what I've been through.
That's a great point. You say, this is where I've been. This is where I am. If I'm farther ahead on this path, I can now help you get to where I am. Okay. Now, if you're talking about, hey, I'm not going to be coaching you on how to get to where I'm not, but I can help you get to where I am and show you the tools, the ways that I've done it, all those different things. And I can help you see around those corners because I've been there.
Right.
That's key.
Yes.
So when you're developing that experience, you have to have someone believing you at some point to say, you know what? I want to test this out. What did you do for your first few clients to be like, oh, I trust her. I definitely want to listen. So go ahead.
Well, it's the vision work that I do, because there aren't any other coaches that do what I do the way I do it. Mm-hmm. So that's where somebody in the room, and I'm going to use an example like I always do.
Great. Let's hear it.
I was in front of a group of 200 women a couple months ago, amazing group of a community of women, and very, very successful group of women in many different industries. And because of the vision work I did right off the bat, and I only had 30 minutes to speak, so I've got to connect with them fast, right? Yeah. I got them to think about their life in a different way that nobody else has ever had done with them before. And so out of that experience, I now have 3 clients because nobody had ever asked them before to write their life out 3 years from now and to really think about what they wanted. And that usually is what brings people to me out of a speaking event, or when they hear me at a podcast or whatever, is they will come to me and say, you know what? I really needed to hear that today. I've never had anybody ask me to do that the way you did.
That's beautiful. So you ask the right questions and you share stories based on your own experience. Here's the other thing I'm hearing, because I have this brand new book that's coming out. It's called Story Hook, right? It's all about making sure that you bring in the story that you want repeated. You want people to be like, oh, they have that same pain point. I have that same pain point. I need to figure this out. So what's your very favorite story? One that comes top of mind. You're like, oh my gosh, this is why I do what I do. Who's that person? The one that you're like, that's exactly why I do what I do. Let's hear one of those testimonials.
All right. So when I talk about vision and why writing this vision out helps fix just about everything in your life, the very first pain point I usually bring up, because I'll pull up 2 or 3 points, right? Yeah. That I know hits the right audience that I'm in front of. Mm-hmm. One of the very first ones that I will talk about is how it helps you set better boundaries around your time, your money, and the people you spend it with.
Mm.
And I emphasize the word boundaries, Brigham, because most people, I hear them go, oh. So I know I've hit a nerve. And whether it's around their time, money, other people they spend it with, you're usually a boundary problem. And the biggest one is the people.
Mm.
They know they've got some boundaries that they are blurring lines and they're letting people into their life that they should not. And if I have the time, I go into another exercise of showing them how they can move those people to the back row of their life. I do an exercise called the front row. It really helps them see how they can set those boundaries down and what a big effect it's going to make on their life. And like the ice cream cone, Brigham, that is the second thing I hear the most from people. Is they come up to me and go, that front row thing changed my life.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You think about how simple that vernacular is. Hey, are you on the front row of my life or on the back row?
Yeah.
I already can picture how that can be helpful for somebody.
Right.
Very helpful. I talk about, are you in the vehicle that you want to be in or not?
Right.
Are you in somebody else's? One of my great coaches, Dr. Greg Kimball, you got to hear from him. He says this idea: who are you plugging into and who are you allowing to plug into you? Same idea, different visual.
Yes.
Anytime you hear great tools, great concepts, you can start to take these and say, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
And if you can help your audience be able to visualize themselves in your story, suddenly it's not a story in general. It's a story about them, even though the name's different.
Correct.
That's huge.
It's everything. That's the difference between a really good coach and a really good speaker.
Yes.
Is somebody who really, really, they're speaking for their audience, not to them.
Bars, they're speaking absolutely for their audience.
Yeah. So
if you care about it, go ahead.
Yeah. So I always walk into the room. Like I said, I've got to know who's my audience, who am I mostly in front of, and what do I know about their pain points, and what life experiences can I pull forward for them so that we can connect on that human level. Because I want them, I'm there for them, not for me. And we're both in the speaking-ish kind of world, Brigham, right? Where we see a lot of speakers who can get up on stage and just give so much information.
Yeah.
But the audience isn't connecting because all they're doing is talking for the sake of talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about the audience. This is why I love doing live versus Zoom speaking.
Presentations. Yeah.
Because I can see I can see people's faces and I can see their reactions.
So true.
Yeah.
There's a visual that came to my head a couple months ago. I was reading a book about how Steve Jobs, when he was trying to discover how he wanted to promote a product, his marketer, he's like, well, we could do this and this and this. And Steve's like, we've got 3 or 4 different ideas. And the marketer said, all right, I need you to catch this ball. And he grabbed a couple paper balls and he wadded them up and he threw it at him like 3 or 4 at a time. And Steve tried to catch him and he dropped every single one of the balls. He says, that's not a good message. But then he grabbed one piece of paper, he wadded it up and he threw it and he caught it. He's like, that's a good message.
Right.
And you think about if we are actually caring enough about our audience to give them a gift, the gift is simplicity, something that they can use today to get better, to level up their life,
right,
to make their mindset, skill set, and tool set in alignment so they can actually get the results that they want. Because coaches are paid for results. They're not paid for information.
Yeah.
Information's cheap. Honestly, you can go buy a book. You can go almost anywhere online and get free information, but it's the implementation and the results that people want.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why results focus as a coach is so important, because you can overwhelm people with information overload that makes it so they just get so jittery that they don't do anything. And then you wasted your hour talking to them.
Right.
Let's talk about how do you help people narrow down that focus and say, this is what we're going to do next.
Well, what I do again is get them to take the action steps that I laid out, right? Write the vision, break it down for me. The next thing we start talking about is, where do they really feel like they're getting stuck? Mm-hmm. And this is where I can read between the lines. So a lot of times their focus is, well, my family's not going to support me in this decision, or I don't have enough education, or they're bringing in all the outside circumstances. We know Brigham probably will never change.
Yeah.
If you fix one, you'll have another one. What we have to do is get really focused on where is the fear coming from? So when I have a live workshop, like my Vision is Victory thing, where I actually give people time in the room to write their vision, when I bring them all back into the room after lunch is when I start asking them to come to the mic and define to me how they felt about writing it.
Ooh, that's good.
And
So it's not just what you wrote, it's how did you feel about what you wrote. That's a great distinction.
Here's where we're really getting stuck. It's never the outside circumstances, very rarely. It's usually about how you felt about writing that. So a lot of times, I'll go back to this scenario of me speaking in front of this group of women. I didn't have much time, so I had them shout it out to me. Tell me how you're feeling. Throw me some words. And they threw out words like, I'm inspired. I have hope. This is exciting. And then I had a couple people raise their hand and go, I'm feeling really anxious right now. Or I'm feeling really overwhelmed, or, I don't know where to start, or what if I try this and I fail? Okay, now we're getting to the root cause of what it really is about. And those are the things that I have them write goals around, because those are the walls.
Yeah.
So if we don't start attacking the walls, which are all the things that are going on up here in your mind, you're never going to get to the goal.
Yeah, you have to identify that wall.
Right.
Because sometimes, I used to teach pantomime as a theater coach. So important to recognize that sometimes the resistance that we create is actually thin air. It's nothing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that allows an audience to see that resistance, because you have that click. But there's literally nothing there. A lot of times it's our choice to say, oh, this is resistant. This is difficult. It's the actual verbiage that we use that creates that resistance. And sometimes you have to have a coach to say, well, let's choose a higher frequency word. Let's choose another way to phrase that. And one little word can unlock so much. It can take that scotoma, that mental blind spot, and open up so you can actually see the vision.
Right.
Do you have an idea that popped into your head just barely? I can see it on your face. You got one. You're like, oh, there's a story. I can see a story in your eyes. Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking of a client of mine who is a big fan of mine still.
Yeah.
I started working with her, I'm going to say 5 years ago, Brigham.
Mm-hmm.
She had a lot of fear about stepping into coaching because she knew I was going to hold her accountable to the things that she'd been pushing off.
Yeah.
And she wanted to make a shift she was in network marketing, which is also my past. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to go more into speaking and coaching like I had. Awesome. But there was a lot of, when you go into speaking and coaching, a lot of imposter syndrome. Can I really do this? Will people follow me? But she signed up, and the very next day, she ripped her Achilles or something on the tennis court.
Oh.
And was going to be laid up now for 6 months. And she came to me and said, so I can't move on with coaching now because I'm now incapacitated and blah, blah, blah. I said to her, and she still says this to people, Veronica, what good of a coach would I be right now if I let you off the hook that easily?
Ooh.
Because that's not the real reason. We're going back to just the fear of me now holding you accountable. And look, I said to her, look, girl, you're going to be laid up for 6 months. What a better time for us to be creating a new business for you. So again, I can lovingly just kind of see where the fear comes up and where they're going to attach an outside circumstance to why they can't keep moving forward and kind of move them through that.
That's so beautiful. What kind of a coach would I be if I let you quit now, or if I let you off the hook? I'm stealing that, and I'll give you credit for a little bit, and then I'll eventually make my own. But thank you so much for that. That's a great tool. Wow, how can I let you off the hook? One of the other things that comes top of mind for me is I've had lots of different coaches in my life. I did tons of different sports. I did soccer. I did baseball. I did a lot of business coaching with short-term rentals, now theater coaching, all of these different elements. One of the things that I've noticed with coaches is they say the hard thing in the moment that it matters. That feedback loop, if it's too long, it actually doesn't help. Like if they're like, hey, if you would have just done this during the game, it would be fine. Well, the game's over. So I literally can now hopefully have that be helpful in the future, but not anymore. Right. What's been your experience helping people in the moment where it actually matters to have those adjustments, those micro things? You're like, hey, you fell off the horse. Let's get back on right now. Go do the work. Do you have someone that came to mind or a story that comes to mind? You're like, oh, so glad in that moment. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, because most of the people I coach are dealing with some sort of fear, what's keeping them stuck. So we're constantly working through things.
Yeah.
So again, the way I do that in a very loving, positive, non-shaming way is remind them that, hey, I understand because I've been through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I share more of my stories so that they know we're talking on a human level here. And I'm not just trying to call them out or judge them in any way. It's very important as a coach to make sure that they never feel shame or judged.
That's so cool.
So just more on a human level, more stories. I think the fact that I'm very public with my story and the things that I've been through lays a foundation for people to know that I'm not just in it for the title. I'm in this to really help people.
I think that heart, you can feel it. It's different than someone just like, let me show off on stage for you. Like, no, I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve. I'm here to give you tools that you can actually take and use and teach you how to use them so that you can have an expert tool used expertly. And that's a huge distinction. If you're a great coach, you help them not just know what the tool is, but actually know how to use it.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons you'd go to all of these different retreats. The reason you go and connect with people at the very highest level. Like if your coach doesn't have a coach, for instance, that's interesting because for me, I'm always going to have a coach. I have a book coach right now to help me get my story hook book totally finished and across the finish line and published. It's really easy to just write and do it by yourself, but it's a totally different thing to say, hey, I've been there, I've done that. You're missing this. This needs to be fixed. Like I wrote 71,000 words and he's like, bro, we need to pare this back, simplify it, especially for your first book. People need to be able to digest it and then implement it quickly. And I was like, you're right. I don't need to tell them everything. I don't need to give them every single data point. I'm going to give them everything they need to get the result in a simple time frame. So I'm going to do like a 25 to maybe 30,000 word book when you can read in a 2-hour sitting and then they can get some value from it and do something with it. That's a very different book than one that takes a month to read. I know you've got some of those. So let's talk about this for a moment. Is there anything that comes top of mind for you that you're like, man, this is the pain point that I see the most often? And here's how I've been able to make the adjustments in my life to be able to be the example, not just tell people about what to do.
I think there's two. One is comparison. That's a huge problem we have in this world right now, especially because of social media. Yeah. Big problem with my young adults, for sure, because they see everybody else out there killing it. Yeah. And what they tell me, Brigham, all the time is they feel like they're already behind. So I think a lot of people get really tripped up in the comparison thing. And because of that, they care so much about what other people think, and it stops them in their tracks. What will my parents think? What will my peers think? When I stepped into the world of network marketing, that industry, this was the early 90s, Brigham. In that time frame, network marketing was taboo.
Yeah. Believe it. Well, I'm from Utah. I totally get it. I slipped into my DMs again. All right. Thank you. No, I don't want the lotions and potions and pills.
Exactly. So, I have a business degree and I was working my way up the ranks of a company, but I hated it. I was not doing the 9-to-5 gig well. Yeah. And so when I decided, I joined a company called Arbonne, which I'm sure you're familiar with. When I stepped into that, wow. I mean, the support I thought I was going to have for my family and friends, not there. They thought I was crazy. And so I think there's a lot of people who will not even go after a dream because they fear so much about what people are going to think about what they're about to do.
And you think about the hard work that goes into being your very best self. Sometimes it takes years for people to realize those dreams, and they quit 3 feet from gold.
Yes.
It is so easy to stop doing what you want to do and settle. But the thing is, how many people in your history book settled for just second rate?
Yeah.
Not very many of those guys made it into the history book. I don't know of any off the top of my head. But the people that had resiliency, that did their very best despite all of the challenges, those are the ones that make the history book.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. And you have to know that every one of those people had major adversities they overcame.
Yeah.
100%. And I love that you're quoting 3 Feet from Gold because Sharon Lechter,
I love her. She's so great.
great mentor and great friend of mine. So she'll be thrilled that you mentioned that book.
Yeah, definitely need to go get that book if you have not read
Yeah.
it. It is brilliant. Her and Greg just knocked it out of the park. Simple, actionable,
Yep.
very useful. It has so many good frameworks too. I think the biggest thing when you are looking at where you want to go in your life to build this mental vitality is you have to have your eyes opened. We're
Yeah.
getting this idea of recharge. You have to know where you are deficient to be able to do that. That's why you need a coach, not optional. You need a coach. And if for some reason you're like, you know what, I don't know if I can afford a coach. I hear that all the time. You can't afford not to. If you really want to get to where you want to go, you find the people that have been there, done that. They have the experience, and the people that have the frameworks, they have done the work. And even if they're a little bit farther ahead of you, they can say, hey, here's the next step. I love reading books. Like, honestly, this is one of my favorite things. I love connecting on different ideas. I had a book earlier today that I was reading called Man's Search for Meaning. I'm sure you've heard of Viktor Frankl. This, I'm going to bring it back up, even though it was on my last podcast. If architects want to strengthen a decrepit arch, they increase the load which is laid upon it, for thereby the parts are joined more firmly together. You think about you creating mental vitality, you need to add weight, not subtract weight. You need to figure out what are the things that I need to do day in, day out consistently to be who I need to be every single day. Because if you don't, that weight will go to whoever will be able to bear it.
Right.
The opportunity goes to whoever's ready for it, willing and able. That's a raw person. And I think as a coach, you've got so much value that you create. What is, if you could say, the overarching purpose behind what you do? Because there's a lot of reasons that people do things. Sharon Lechter, she says, oh, why not? But if you could boil it down to one thing, what is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning that doesn't have you just stay where you're at and say, you know what, I want to continue to level up. I want to be better. I want to do my best. What is that for you?
Well, I love the visual that you just gave us, putting more load, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know people are struggling through so many things right now, Brigham. I mean, nobody's getting through this without a lot of adversity somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, this is another problem we have right now, is people isolate when things like that start to fall apart or they're going through something. And it's the worst thing you can do. So
isolation.
I would say the biggest reason I keep doing what I do, and especially bringing people into group coaching or into group events, is because people need to see from each other that everybody's going through something and they can bear the load together.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Now, when we were talking about mental vitality, there's one part of this that I wanted to get your thoughts on. This was my concept with mental vitality. It's not how fast your mind runs, but how clearly it flows.
Right.
A lot of people will have these brakes that they put on their goals while they're trying to put the accelerator on as well. And it's jarring because they're not able to see that they're doing that. What are some of the ways you've been able to help people get into flow and to have their mind be focused so they can actually accomplish what they want to get?
Well, they're always going to hit walls. And so I remind them, you're going to hit one wall and get through that. There'll be another one. You're always going to be tested.
Yeah. And
so we always go back to the vision when they hit a wall. How big is the vision? How bad do you want it? Because if you are finding that wall is still there and you're pacing in front of it, Brigham, just doing this back and forth, you're not getting through the wall, up over the wall, it's because your vision isn't big enough.
Yeah.
You have to have something that you want so bad, it's like air to breathe. That's why I always go back to, let's go to the vision. Has it changed? If you're standing in front of that wall and you're not doing anything, has the vision changed? Do we need to change it? Do we need to take something out that that no longer means anything to you because of life situation or whatever?
Yeah.
Or you're just too comfortable. And a lot of times that's the case.
That's a great point. I feel like we've hit on so many different subjects. It's been so helpful to really dial in what mental vitality can do for us. Vitality is that life force,
right?
That way that we recharge. It doesn't come all at once. We have Sometimes we have to plug into a podcast. Sometimes we have to plug into a book. Sometimes we have to have a coach to be able to say, hey, stop doing X, Y, or Z, start doing this, and keep doing X, Y, or Z. That's really what it comes down to. What do you need to start doing? What do you need to stop doing? What do you need to persist in doing?
Right.
We have so many things that we could be doing. How do you help people really know what to do?
We start with the vision first, and we reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
So that by the time we've got, okay, now we know the big 3 years, we know 1 year where we want to be, where we're going to be in 6 months. I know exactly from that what they should be doing every single day, so they can just do the top 3 things only.
Excellent.
And just keep it, because we want to balance our life out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You do those top 3 things. I like to think of the top 3 things in your personal life,
right,
professional life,
right,
your health and vitality, and your community. Because that's how I do my consistent daily actions. That was one of the things I learned from Greg years ago, but I've been implementing it a lot more efficiently now. As we do those things day in, day out, we might not hit all 3 every single day perfectly, but because we had those prioritized, we are able to level up our life in so many different ways.
Right.
And then we download those habits and we're like, oh, wait, there's another level. I can do this now because all those other things have become righteous rituals, daily disciplines. I no longer have to think about it. Now I can go to that next level. But if we don't get the basics and we don't do the basics better,
right,
you don't have the scaffolding. You don't have the ability to build off of that skeleton to make the body that you want to, or the business that you want to.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts? Go ahead. I would love to hear, top of mind, what is the thing that you want to leave the audience with? We've had a great conversation. What is the thing, like, man, here's a final encouragement, final tip. What's coming to top of mind?
Well, if you've never written the vision, I'm going to give you a link to my first book, Vision is Victory. Vision is Victory. It's an ebook that's downloadable. It's a workbook to write your vision.
Perfect.
So I just want to give you that link as a free gift so people will actually do it.
Thank you.
The second thing I will tell you is get in a community of people who are going to circle around you and pull you through all of the walls you hit, and to remind you of what your vision is. I had that in Arbonne. I had that in my coaching community. Yeah. I have that, in all the communities that I'm in now. It's imperative that you are in the right community.
So true. Because you think about it, if you're in a community of crabs that are always pulling you down, even though you're doing your very best, you're not going to be able to get there. But if you're around people that are encouraging, like a wolf pack, they are all focused on getting what they want, and we help each other do it, changes the dynamic. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention to help us see a little bit farther. I love the gift that you're giving people. I'm excited to go through that and rework my vision a little bit more clearly. I love the ice cream analogy. That's so much fun. So thank you. All the way down to your consistent daily actions. It's so brilliant.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And guys, keep doing what you can every single day to be a little better, to have a little bit more, and to become that person that levels up their life consistently. God bless. And remember, go to thefinalpercent.com, Brigham Blackman. If you have some questions, concerns, things that I can do to help you program your ideas and create the implementation to turn your dreams into reality, that's what I do, especially with your story. So have a great rest of your day, and God bless.